right. Our first speaker is a Dale Carnegie advocate. After taking the class herself, she worked as an assistant with 3 classes of 20 to 25 people, learning the Carnegie principles. Dale Carnegie training, however, doesn't allow for a lot of time in front of an audience. Toastmasters does. When she joined Toastmasters, she was appalled that we evaluated every speech. It seemed to be in direct conflict with the #1 Carnegie principle, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Since then, she has learned the importance of evaluations for critical thinking, situational awareness, motivation, and self-esteem. Deb has been a member of Toastmasters for over 3 years. She's been the Vice President of Education. Anybody who's fulfilled that role knows how difficult that can be, and is currently the treasurer of our club. With the introductory presentation this morning entitled Evaluate to Motivate, please welcome Deb Amdahl.
Good morning. What a beautiful Saturday morning for everybody to be stuck inside. How many of you went out for fish fry last night? Yeah. No, it's a requirement in Wisconsin. If you don't go for fish during Lent, they send out the fish fry police. So thank you all for avoiding the police last night. What'd you think of the restaurant? It's good? Is it too cold, too hot? Fish good? Was it too oily? Was the bratty kid in the next table really annoying you? Should they have done something about that? All of those things? Any of them? That's an evaluation. It's also a criticism, because there's really not a lot they can do about the bratty kid except eject the family and they lose business. But it is an evaluation. If you were recommending your elderly grandparents who really don't like little bratty kids, you'd probably say, you probably don't want to go there on a Friday night. But if you enjoyed the food and it was a good atmosphere and you had a good time, you're probably going to give them a positive evaluation. And that's what evaluating is about. Motivating people to do things a little bit better. To do a lot better sometimes, because some of the speeches we have in Toastmasters are kind of awful. But all of us did awful ones at the beginning and continue to do so, and that is not any kind of an evaluation of my skills. Is anyone here not a Toastmaster? You're not? Welcome. Glad to have you here. How did you hear about us? About the meeting? Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Noel, for bringing a guest. The evaluations are important in Toastmasters and in life because they help not only the speaker become a better speaker, it helps evaluators be better at noticing things. When I started with Toastmasters, the first thing we did was went to a motivational seminar downtown, and we went to lunch. And the Toastmasters talked not about the speech's content and how cool it was to see Bradshaw there. It was, well, did you see the way that he put his hands up all the time and he did this and he did that? And they were evaluating these speeches of motivational professional speakers. Who did they think they were? I learned a lot that day, and I continue to learn during evaluations, and it's made me more aware of how things are supposed to be, how things are better, and how I can get better at what I do in the world out there. Evaluations in the Toastmaster environment give immediate feedback. If you have ever given a speech or you've ever done something and somebody comes up to you a month later and said, do you remember when you did this? And you're, oh my goodness, I don't think so. Well, okay, well, if you say so. Or your work evaluations and they say, well, you talked to that customer bad. Well, which bad customer did I talk to that badly? I don't remember. I've talked to a lot of customers since then. Immediate feedback is important. Evaluations offer ways to improve. If you do your speech with your hands up like this, And like Steve Marks says, that's being a pterodactyl. You might want to put your hands to your side a little more often. Be a little more casual, a little more confident in the way that you stand instead of trying to protect yourself. It makes you feel better about what you're doing. It really does. Everybody who's been terrified to stand in front of an audience, once you start getting evaluations and have people tell you that you're doing basically a good job, just let's try a little bit different here or a little bit different there, you start to feel better and start doing a better job of pretty much everything, because it reminds you that it's not just speech making that you're doing every day, it's in all of your interactions. So, there's a few things that you can do to evaluate effectively. You can make the PowerPoint change when you want it to. In Toastmasters, read the objectives in the manual. If you're the evaluator, make sure that you understand what the speech is supposed to be trying and practicing, so that you know if they did a good job in it. There's always an evaluation form there. If you're doing a personal evaluation, what is the effect that this person wanted to have of this event? And it's not necessarily just a speech. It's work evaluations. It's something that your spouse did that you weren't exactly happy with. My husband always says, well, what way do you want it done? Because that's the way it's always got to be done. Well, yeah, okay, that's my objectives. What can I say? I value his input. Thank you. There's guidelines for in the evaluation in the book. What are you looking for? How do you rate it? Sometimes it's just check the boxes. Did they do this? Did they do that? Sometimes it's actually a written evaluation. And talk to the speaker to make sure you know what they're looking for. My problem is I get jittery. Well, I have lots of problems, but the one that I like to focus mostly on is I get a little jittery and I start to talk a little bit too much, so maybe I should take a deep breath and pause and think about what I'm going to say next. And think about what I'm doing wrong. In the speech, when they're giving the speech, pay attention. You'll learn a lot by what they say, what they don't say. Look at what the audience is doing and saying and how they're reacting. If they're giving a comedy speech and the audience isn't laughing, there might be a problem. Either the speaker is speaking to the wrong audience or the audience doesn't get it. Either way, it's the speaker's fault. Straight out. Speaker is there to entertain and to encourage the audience. So pay attention to your surroundings. Pay attention to the audio, the way that people speak. I'm not going to read the slide. You can. Everybody's adults. This is the busiest slide I had. I thought that maybe I shouldn't include it, and what the heck? We like to read. Death by PowerPoint. But it's important to be able to hear and understand and talk at the level of your audience. If you're talking to physicists and you want to talk about nuclear fission or rocket science, they're probably going to talk at an entirely different level than if it's the group, the neighborhood of the rocket area that has to listen to those darn things going off in all the sonic booms, right? You have to talk to your audience. Make sure you're using the right words and the right focus to satisfy your purpose. Make sure, watch your words, watch your tone, and watch your pauses. Very important. Make sure that the speaker pays attention to the audience. You can't do a speech if you don't know what your audience is doing. If they're all starting to get fidgety and turning their back on you, you know there's something wrong, and maybe you ought to end your speech and sit down, or find a better way of entertaining them, because it is all entertainment. Even if the message is important, it is an entertainment event. Make sure that you're evaluating the speech and not the person. Someone who is a slender, tall, beautiful, willowy blonde had better not be saying, "Deb, you really ought to lose some weight," because it's not like I don't already know that, okay? It's nothing that I can do right now. I wouldn't have helped the quality of the speech unless I was talking about diet aids. So make sure that you're talking about the speech and not the speaker. Talk in a language that they're going to understand. Again, if you're the physicist, you're not going to talk to the neighbor. If you're the physicist evaluator, you're not going to talk to the neighbor about the, gravity, the speed and the calculations of gravity and downforce and all of those things. Make sure that you are using language that they'll understand in the same way that they used it so that you would. And don't go up there and say, "Oh, it was so perfect. Oh, there's just nothing that can be done. Oh, I hope you do that again for us 6 times." Because there are excellent speakers. There's excellent speakers in this room. And there really sometimes isn't anything else that you could improve on. But you know what? If you listen to the evaluations of other speakers, I learned so much from listening to others and on how they picked up things that just didn't dawn on me that was something that could change and make it better. So pay attention to the other evaluators. But make sure that you have some constructive criticism for the speaker that you're evaluating. Use the I. Use I a lot. I think. I know. I thought. The only perspective that you really have is your own. You can't talk about how the audience didn't know, because you're not the audience. You are the single person in that audience. So I thought that other people are going to have completely different ideas. So always speak from your perspective, not some force or perspective that you don't have. And do something positive. We're going to learn more about how to give positive comments in the other 2 presentations, but make it positive. If you start talking negative, the speaker's going to nod and pretend to listen and kind of throw that whole discussion away, because they don't like hearing negative things. I don't. I've heard a lot of them about my speeches, and they've always been carefully couched between a positive and another positive, the sandwich technique, or in the PEZ technique, the things we're going to be talking about later on today. We're going to be talking about those two different ways of putting our thoughts in order and evaluating a speech. And we're going to learn a whole lot more about how to motivate people through evaluations. Questions?